Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that's, well, absolutely vital for anyone who owns land, especially if you like sharing it, for hunting, fishing, or even just having friends over. We've gone through quite a bit of material on property safety and owner liability. Our mission today, to pull out the key insights you need to stay informed and, frankly, protected. So the big question we're tackling is this. What are the actual liabilities property owners face if someone gets hurt on their land? And that includes invited guests, maybe even uninvited ones.
It does. And you might be surprised. The research we looked at shows the scope of liability is pretty broad. It's not just the obvious stuff like a rickety step. A really key point from the material is that you could be, well, on the hook for liability even for things like criminal activity or other security issues.
The criminal activity, how does that work?
Well, if it's determined that the incident was actually foreseeable or predictable, basically if there were signs, maybe inadequate lighting or known issues in the area and you didn't take reasonable steps.
Yeah, it just really hammers home how important it is to understand these details from protecting yourself, your assets, everything.
Okay, let's unpack this a little because the idea of being liable for a trespasser, someone who technically shouldn't even be there, that feels wrong to a lot of landowners.
It's a really common reaction and a great question. It comes down to what the sources often refer to as due diligence for maintaining your property. Now, look, a trespasser doesn't have the same standing as someone you invited over, obviously, but owners generally can't intentionally harm them or, set traps. And in some situations, there's even a duty to warn about known, really dangerous conditions, especially things that might attract kids, like an old pool or machinery.
Okay, so it's not about rolling out the welcome mat, but more about not creating, hidden dangers. Exactly. It's about basic safety and safeguarding your assets, too. The research was pretty clear that many injuries could have been avoided if property owners had been more vigilant. It's really a call for being proactive.
Right. So what are these common conditions, sort of pitfalls people should be looking out for? Our sources listed several key ones. Think about your own places. We list these. Open cisterns or wells, not properly covered, branches that haven't been cleared, the kind that could fall on a car or, worse, a person, old structures, maybe leaning sheds or barns that could injure someone if they collapse, existing tree stands, that's a big one for hunting properties, ones that might fail, and things like washed out roads or trails.
And what's really striking is how these things that might seem minor can just balloon into huge legal and financial headaches. Like the sources say, an uncovered old well could result in a broken ankle, maybe worse, or loose overhead branches might fall and cause someone serious injury.
Yeah, not just a minor scrape.
Definitely not. And these are exactly the kinds of scenarios where, negligence could be argued if you knew or reasonably should have known about the danger and didn't act.
So knowing all that, what does this actually mean for you, the owner? What can you do about it actively?
It really begins with fully embracing that duty of maintaining and repairing your property. You can't just let things go. Neglected properties, well, they just naturally create unsafe conditions. It's almost like you need to shift your mindset a bit.
Yeah.
You love your land, you enjoy it, but you also need to look at it sometimes through the eyes of a safety inspector. What are the potential hazards here?
That proactive approach, yeah, that's exactly what the sources kept coming back to. They laid out some clear preventive strategies. First one is just consistent vigilance, regularly monitoring your property, like doing safety checks, actively looking for where risks might be. And this isn't just about your invited guests. It's about anyone who might, for whatever reason, end up on your land. Then the advice is pretty direct. Fix and secure what you can. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And for the stuff that maybe cannot be repaired, like an old foundation or a really unstable slope, you have to make it safe. Block it off somehow. Put up clear warning signs. Make the danger obvious.
And that leads to the next point, which is acting fast.
Exactly.
Right.
Actively managing preventative strategies. It means promptly addressing and fixing issues you notice. Doing that significantly reduces the risk of such accidents.
Yeah.
It's not a one-and-done thing. It's ongoing.
Constant vigilance.
And there's one area that gets a lot of emphasis in the material, maybe because it's easy to overlook.
Yeah.
Keeping your roadways and trails clear and safe. Our research had a really powerful example. Something as simple as a cable stretched across a path. Seems minor, right? But someone trips, gets seriously hurt. Big problem.
Yeah, you see those sometimes for blocking off sections temporarily.
Right. So the advice is to routinely check for obstructions or dangers on your trail system and promptly eliminate them. That means fixing those washed out roads, clearing branches and other debris, making sure any equipment you have isn't sticking out into pathways. Just basic trail maintenance, really.
It really makes you ask yourself, doesn't it? Are you truly seeing your property through that lens of potential hazards? Or are you mostly just seeing the fun parts, the enjoyment, that shift in view is kind of key?
Okay, so we've covered a lot about being proactive, checking things, fixing things, warning signs. But, let's be real, accidents can still happen, even with the best intentions, the best efforts. So what's the final backstop, the ultimate safety net here?
Insurance. Simple as that. It becomes absolutely critical at this point. And the research we looked at makes a very strong recommendation. It is vitally important to have liability insurance for your property. They specifically call out vacant land insurance. Think of it kind of like your car insurance, but for your land. If someone gets injured there, this premise's liability insurance may cover the costs associated with their injury.
And why the specific mention of vacant land insurance? Does a regular homeowner's policy not cover it?
Often, no, or not fully. Standard homeowners policies frequently have gaps or exclusions, especially for undeveloped land, or if certain activities like hunting or maybe ATVs are involved. So having that specific vacant land coverage is really crucial.
Right, and those costs, they can be staggering. The sources point out that medical care, vehicle, and equipment repairs are very expensive, especially if it's a significant injury. We're talking potentially life-altering costs. But it's not just the immediate bills, is it? It's the legal side, too. Defending yourself in court. The sources warn that could leave all your assets vulnerable. Your house, your savings, everything could potentially be at risk if you face a major lawsuit and you're not adequately covered. It's not just about paying their bills, it's about protecting your entire financial future.
Absolutely. So the practical advice that comes through loud and clear is determine what coverage limits you might want. You need to sit down, maybe talk to your insurance agent, and make sure you have adequate coverage. Enough coverage to protect your guests, yes, but also your property itself, and crucially, all your other assets. When you look at the big picture, adequate insurance isn't just, another bill to pay. It's a fundamental layer of protection for everything you've worked so hard to build.
Now, our main focus today, obviously, has been safety and liability. But the source material did briefly mention some other potential upsides for landowners, particularly those who might consider leasing out their land, say, for hunting. It just offers a slightly broader view on managing your property actively. These other points included things like creating extra income.
Sure, that's often a motivator.
Yeah. And having hunters help implement land management plans, creating opportunities for conservation work, using controlled hunting to help manage wildlife numbers, also fostering the hunting community, helping pass on traditions, and even potentially minimizing your own upkeep costs if lessees take on some maintenance.
And there's a subtle link back to safety there, isn't there? If you have people actively using the land through leasing, it often means more regular monitoring, more eyes on the property. That consistent presence and upkeep, even if driven by leasing, it naturally reinforces the safety efforts, the liability mitigation we've been talking about this whole time.
That's a great point. So, okay, let's wrap up this deep dive. We've talked about the surprisingly wide scope of property liability, yes, potentially even for trespassers in certain cases. We've hit on specific hazards to look out for: open wells, bad branches, unstable structures, unsafe trails. We cover the essential proactive steps: regular checks, fixing what you can, blocking off or warning about what you can't, keeping paths clear. And finally, the absolute must-have: getting the right kind of liability insurance, like vacant land insurance, with adequate limits to be your ultimate safety net. It really boils down to being informed, being proactive, and protecting yourself.
Yeah. So thinking about all that, about foresight and protection being so crucial, here's something maybe to ponder for yourself. What single unaddressed hazard on your property, however small it might seem right now, could potentially turn into the biggest unseen risk for you down the road? Worth thinking about.